We've been talking about, breathing and sleep and all different kinds of stuff on this show for quite some time. We like to try to do stuff as optimal as we possibly can. In some of your experience, why do you think that sometimes, like a lot of us are into lifting weights? Why do you think a lot of times people that lift weights end up with sleep apnea? They end up with trouble, or maybe they run into some issues with breathing properly and things like that. Do you think it has a lot to do with, like for us, we power lift in particular? Do you think it has some stuff to do with, I don't know, like the grittiness of what it is that we're doing, and maybe we never really were taught the proper way to breathe, something along those lines?
Yeah, so many weightlifters are paying attention to, their health, their metabolism, their muscles, obviously, but they aren't paying attention to their breathing. And what happens is when we develop too many muscles around here, we can actually start blocking our airways. Our airways can get obstructed. So when you see a lot of weightlifters, traditional pose is to have the neck out like this. So that allows you to get more air into your body. If you think about someone, a ENT who is like EMT rather, who is doing CPR on someone, they take their hand on the back of the neck and crane their head out to open the airway. So that's what's been happening with a lot of weightlifters. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of weightlifters have heart problems or blood pressure issues because they have obstruction in their airways.
I'm really curious about your take on this, because from what Mark was saying, yeah, that is a big problem within the weightlifting community. But the solution that a lot of people seem to find is grabbing a sleep apnea machine, which I'm curious on your take on it, because that seems like it's just kind of a Band-Aid to the bigger issue. So do you think that using a sleep apnea machine can be beneficial in the long run? And if not, or if so, like what can they do instead to transition themselves to actually fixing their breathing?
CPAPs are lifesavers. So without a doubt, for people who can't breathe, who have been suffering from obstructive sleep apnea, which is so injurious to the body on every single level, these allow you to breathe at night. But you're 100% correct when you say this is doing nothing for the core problem of having an obstructed airway. It's a Band-Aid. It's a fantastic Band-Aid. It's a life-saving Band-Aid, but it's not fixing the core problem. So just the way that we work out our biceps or abs or whatever, we should be considering that we have this big muscle tube, right? In our throats. This is all a muscle tube, and you should work that out as well. And there's a lot of scientific evidence showing that by doing simple exercises with your tongue, these things called oral pharyngeal exercises, you can influence the fitness of your throat. I know this seems totally crazy, but this has been proven and studied for years and years. So I would put in 15 minutes of throat exercise. They look really weird. I won't demonstrate in front of you guys right now, but they work.
So like, do you just should we just look up oral pharyngeal exercises and on YouTube and something might pop up?
Yeah, don't look on YouTube. You're going to get a bunch of garbage. In the scientific literature, there are various studies. There's one that was put out in Chest journal, very respected scientific journal, that found it significantly decreased snoring and sleep apnea. I'm not saying this is going to work for everyone. Apnea can occur in the nasopharynx and the hypopharynx all over the place, but it's free. And if anything, it's going to allow you to breathe better throughout the day. And who doesn't want that?
I've heard you discuss on some other shows, how you got into some of this. How did we get to this point where we even need your services, where we even need a book about breathing? How did we end up here?
Yeah, as a science journalist, the last thing I ever thought I would be doing was to be writing a book about breath. And a lot of my friends gave me a bunch of crap about this early on. You're writing a book about breathing? And until you start really getting into the nitty gritty of it, and where I became convinced that there was a larger story here, was to learn that the human face has been evolving characteristics that are not at all advantageous to our health. By that, I mean, for the last 300, 400 years, our mouths have been growing smaller and smaller and smaller. And what happens when you have a mouth that's too small for your face, your teeth grow in crooked. Teeth have nowhere to grow in straight, so they grow in crooked. Another thing that happens, and I'm a great example of this, is the upper palate here of your mouth, which is right here, can push into your sinuses and can obstruct your breathing. So we become the worst breathers in the animal kingdom just in the past 300, 400 years.
And other animals don't have crooked teeth, right?
No. I mean, unless you've got like some bulldogs or pugs or these highly inbred brachycephalic dogs, they breathe terribly and they suffer from a lot of the same problems that we do. If you've seen a bulldog breathing, it's just, I mean, it looks like a lot of people, working out around the park where I live. So beyond these highly inbred dogs, any animal in the wild is going to have perfectly straight teeth. And all of our ancestors had perfectly straight teeth. So we're the only ones, modern humans, to suffer from these problems. When
it comes to exercise, we were talking about a little bit earlier on the show, like when it comes to something like running, we've heard over the years, breathe in the nose and out the mouth. Do you feel that this is wrong? And if it's wrong, what are some reasons on why it might be wrong?
So the exhale is less important, but we lose 42% more moisture breathing out through our mouths. So I live in a city here, and because gyms are all closed, everyone's out running all the time. I see these people running around with their mouths wide open, and they're also maybe carrying a water bottle, 16 ounces of water here. And sometimes they're wearing a little belt or a little backpack and hitting off this water, but their mouths are open. I mean, you might as well just put a little hole at the bottom of this water bottle and just spill out this water, because you're just losing so much of your moisture. So from what I've seen, from what I've researched, inhaling and exhaling through the nose is the way you need to breathe. And you see this from top runners. You see this from sprinters. They're inhaling and exhaling through the nose. To be clear, if you're like about ready to dunk a basketball, you look at Michael Jordan right before he dunks on someone, he goes, takes this huge breath of air. That's totally fine. He's about to dunk on someone. But I guarantee the rest of the time he's breathing through his nose, because it's really hard to be healthy if you're a mouth breather.
So this makes me really curious, because I've heard you talk about your transition, right? I think you've mentioned that you were breathing the wrong way for much of your life, and it was a little bit hard for you to actually start breathing through your nose, especially as an adult. So when someone's trying to make this transition, what type of journey should they expect if like their nose is clogged up, their nasal passages are maybe smaller than they actually should be? Can someone actually make a full transformation as an adult as far as being able to fully nasal breathe and take advantage of their nose?
Well, when you switch over from being a mouth breather to a nasal breather, it sucks. It takes a long time. It's miserable. You think it's not going to work out. That was certainly my story. It was the story from so many people that I've heard from. So, breaking a habit takes a long time, especially if you've been doing one for decades and you think it's just normal. I would go to sleep every single night. Didn't matter if I was in a hotel room or if I was camping or whatever, with a huge glass of water by my bed, because I would keep waking up with this dry mouth. I'd hit some water, go back to sleep, wake up, dry mouth, hit some water, on and on and on. So everyone's got a slightly different problem. So I can't offer a blanket prescription or blanket guidance, but what we do know is you have to breathe through your nose, period. Your body is never, ever really going to be able to operate efficiently or correctly if you're a mouth breather. So how you get to that is really up to you. I found that just training myself, using a little piece of tape during the day. I know this sounds stupid, but it's no more stupid than mouth breathing. Helped me train to become a nasal breather. At night, I'd use the same little piece of tape. I learned about this from a Stanford doctor, and I learned about this from several other doctors who had been suggesting this to their patients for decades. So some people can do that. Some people do need surgery. A small percentage of people absolutely need surgery, and surgery is life-changing for them. But what I've found is we've got a pretty amazing body that is so adaptable if we just learn how to use it in the correct ways. And so start with these easy, free steps first before you go directly in and get your nose drilled out.